Hello everybody, my name is Luke Marr and this is Hot Mode, and today on Hot Mode we are coming to you with your Oscars 2024 fashion roast and review. And there is a lot to get through. There were a lot of people, a lot of looks, a lot to talk about. Overall, I didn't think it was that bad. Like, I didn't love it, I wasn't like amazed, I wasn't but I really didn't think that there was too much boring. I didn't think there was too much that was kind of me not having to make those noises is for everybody's benefit, I would say. So let's get into it. We're starting off pretty strong. America Ferrera, I have not loved for the most part throughout the entirety of the award season, but this Orton pink Versace dress was stunning on her. It was beautiful. It was impeccable. Versace and Donatella Versace herself, they understand how to fit these dresses. These beautiful chainmail Orton signature house code Versace textile is very much so something that they have really mastered. They get how to make them really cling to the body, which is something you wouldn't really think of when it comes to metal. It just fits her immaculately. I love the way that it hugs the hips. I love the fact that it actually embraces the curve and the body. It's not too long. It doesn't drag too heavily. It really fits ever so effortlessly. As for the neckline, I love it. I think it's beautiful. I think that it probably is based somewhere along a fall 1991 Versace collection by Gianni Versace himself. It's not exactly a neckline from the show, I'm pretty positive, but it definitely has a feeling of that. And I think that's kind of the perfect subtle little nod that I like to Gianni's work and what Versace does very, very well. Overall, she looks stunning. Gorgeous. Next up we have Andrea Risenborough. Now she is wearing Loewe. This is like straight off of the runway. There's actually a few of these Loewe dresses. I love this plaid that becomes almost muddied by some sort of water and then begins to blur a little bit, and right below hip area just fades fully into black with little bits of these plaid stripes running in, but just sort of blending together all in black. I know it's a little bit out there. I know it's a little crazy to a lot of people. I know a lot of people are just going to say, ugh, it's ugly. But I think that it's very Jonathan Anderson. I think it's very much so this artistic sort of idea, artistic sort of way of taking on a very classic motif, which is a plaid, blurring it and degrading it, reinventing it in a certain way. I personally do enjoy it. I'm not like amazed by it, but I do think it's a cool notion. I do like that Andrea is wearing it because I feel like that's not something you would really normally see at the Oscars, but there's something about it I do like. Next up we have Annette Bening, and I'm pretty positive she's wearing Armani Privé. Looking at that jacket with that sort of 3-stripe piping in those sequins and kind of having like a varsity jackety sheer floral moment, very Armani Privé in my personal opinion, literally like the most recent collection or the most recent collection too before that. It's very much so that, in my opinion. I do really like this sort of tunic that turns into like a high-low train thing, but also has pants underneath in this navy blue with the little crystals of blue and silver. I just think it's like a cool look. I think it's very different than the normal gowns that we're always seeing, especially for an actress who is very much so nominated for a leading role. I kind of like it. I think it's cool, I think it's casual, and yet at the same time, there's a lot of handcraft and work that's gone into it. I think that the proportions, I think the styling, I think the layering of all of these pieces also like totally changes it, and yet it doesn't feel too casual. It feels a little more casual than a gown, obviously, but it definitely doesn't feel like she's wearing jeans or Birkenstocks. So I'm kind of into it. I like it. Now next up is Anya Taylor-Joy. She's wearing Christian Dior, and at first I was like, oh, what is she doing? And now you're probably gonna say, Luke, why would you say that? But she is very obviously referencing the Venus gown. It's not the Junon gown from 1949, but it's the Venus gown from 1949, which is the sister dress. And pictures, when I see them, I usually am like, oh, it's kind of brown. It's not really brown. It's actually a silver dress. And so Anya does have the color very much so on point in that regard. But these two dresses are some of the most famous Christian Dior, by Christian Dior himself, gowns that exist in the lexicon of his work. But it's also not a bouffant skirt. And so I was like, why would you make the Venus gown if you're not going to do like a bouffant skirt? That's the whole point. That is the Dior silhouette. That's what the iconic shape is about. Like, you can't reference it and then be like, I'm just going to do whatever I want. Like, no, that's not really how that works. But I was listening to Anya talk about it, and she was saying that this was Maria Grazia Curie's take on the Venus gown. Do I like Maria Grazia's take on most things? Absolutely not. I don't. Over the years, by force, I have started to kind of understand what she does. She unexaggerates the shapes of Christian Dior. In the context of her work for Dior exclusively, I get this. Stripping back these big, voluminous shapes that were the thing that made people love Christian Dior. They loved the fact that he saw women as these beautiful flowers who would wear these gorgeous, over-the-top, constricting sometimes, gowns. But Maria Grazia is like, no, we're going to take those ideas and we're going to make them actually more wearable for women. It's a floor-length gown with probably, 10, 15 pounds worth of embroidery. So how wearable is that really? I'm not really sure. But I do understand it. Do I obviously think that it should be a bouffant gown? Absolutely. But do I think that Maria Grazia sort of slimming this dress down in terms of the skirt makes it a little bit more modern in the sense of modern Dior? Again, not that I like it. But do I get it? Yes. Do I think that that changes it from just being a recreation of a certain dress from Dior? Yeah. It's a beautiful dress. It's stunning. The amount of work that went into it, I can only imagine those poor people in Paris are just like literally this all day long. I can appreciate that. I think the fit of it is fantastic. Again, I don't really know if I love the skirt per se. I love the embroidery. I love the petals. I love the reference to Venus and the fact that she's wearing Tiffany & Co. And I believe that that necklace that she's wearing is from the Under the Sea collection. So like her and her team are fully thinking through what she's doing. And that I always really appreciate. So to Anya, I see and I recognize and I respect. Next up, Ariana Grande, Giambattista Valli Couture, gigantic pink stole puff thing. Love. Great. Perfect. Listen, her and Cynthia Erivo, who we're going to talk about in a minute, they're definitely getting into their wicked method dressing. You know what I mean? It's begun. It's starting right now in this moment. And I kind of think it's cool. I like the fact that, honestly, Margot Robbie and Barbie really kicked everybody in the ass, because that's what I'm hearing. The word that I'm hearing is that all of the girlies are like, we got to get to dressing, because that actually makes people excited. Now, I know that Zendaya was doing it obviously beforehand, and we can talk about Dune and the impact of that as well. It's very important. As for the actual dress, it's a pretty simple column dress that obviously is gathered, and so that's why it has that really intriguing texture. I think it fits her well. It's great. I think the big thing is this big silk cloak train. It weirdly kind of works. I think the fact that she's holding it in the way that she's holding it and the place that she's holding it sort of almost feels like a big poof kind of skirt, but it's not. I'm kind of into it. I think it's fun. I want it to evolve. Like, I don't want to just see bright pink. I like that it's beginning. The game is starting, so I'm excited to see it. Next up, we have Billie Eilish wearing Chanel. I mind the look in terms of fit, because I don't really understand why the jacket fits the way that it does. Because I would think that for Chanel, everything is about dressing and women, and we like to make sure that women have clothing that they can wear in their everyday life and that fits them. I don't know why that blazer fits like that, because it feels like right under the bust, it wrinkles, and it doesn't really fall properly, and I'm very confused as to why that is the way that that is. I do like the skirt. I think that the length is weird. I do, but I also feel like that's kind of Billie in a way. I like the fact that she's wearing tweed. I like the fact that she's wearing the little high socks. I like the fact that she's wearing these two-tone black little Mary Janes, very much so Chanel, maybe not the Mary Jane, but the two-tone thing brings the Chanel-ism into it. Prince of Wales check, little Chanel bag. Again, it works. I actually even really like the shirt. I like the little sort of ruffle down the placket. I like the fact that there's no tie. I just think that the blazer is like the one issue that I really have is I don't really understand the fit of it. I understand that it flares out. I understand that at the waist it sort of nips in. But with Chanel specifically, I would think that they've done the work. They've dressed so many clients over the years that I would think that they would have some sort of understanding of how to go around that and fit that without it looking the way that it does. So yeah, that's my big issue. I really don't mind the look. The jacket, I don't mind the skirt. I just mind the fit of that jacket. Next up, we have Bradley Cooper. He's wearing Louis Vuitton. Here's my thing. There's something weird, and it's something that I'll talk about with Colman Domingo too. We gotta figure out the fit thing with LV men's. Something about this blazer in particular, which I really like the buttons on the blazer. I like those little turquoise-ish looking blue buttons, the double-breasted, whatever. It's fine, but something about the blazer width is really big, And then something about the pant size is too thin, and it like makes Bradley Cooper look like he's wearing a big bell, a big black bell, and his legs are just sort of like ding-a-linging in the bell. And I don't like it, and I'm sorry. I understand that sleeves crease as you move in them, but like something also about the crease here is maybe throwing me off. And it could be because he's holding his arms like this or whatever, and it could be because his leg is turned out. I would think that it shouldn't look like that, even if that's the case. I feel like there's a little bit of a barrier to entry when it comes to Pharrell's Louis Vuitton, where like we need to figure out fit. That's very important in menswear. There's one thing that needs to kind of be perfect is fit. It should fit well. You know what I mean? Especially in this context. So we got to figure that out. And also like some sort of tie or something would have been nice, like maybe a bolo, something there. Next up, Carey Mulligan. Sorry, this one gagged me a bit. I'm in it. Listen, we'll talk about Balenciaga, because that's what she's wearing. She's wearing Balenciaga. It's custom, haute couture. And we'll get to Michelle Yeoh. But this is a recreation of a Balenciaga from 1951, which, feel however you want to feel about Balenciaga, but like, you cannot say that Cristobal Balenciaga was not a master, was not an icon. This is the Balenciaga that everybody's been asking for, and Demna and Balenciaga, they delivered. This is a beautiful, form-fitting mermaid dress in black velvet that then cuts off with a scalloped hem, and then underneath that shoots out this beautiful ivory tulle mermaid skirt that is so incredibly gathered. And I think that's the thing too about the haute couture of Balenciaga when they're looking at the archive, is like such amazing stuff to work with. And I think that they're not really tapping it enough a lot of the time. I don't mind forward thinking haute couture. I think it's cool. I think it's needed. There's so much that people don't really know about Balenciaga haute couture that I don't mind them pulling pieces out of the archive, especially when it looks like that. You know what I mean? There's nobody in the world that could really look at Carey Mulligan and say, oh, it's a mother quick. Like, not to be that, but like, motherquake. It's a beautiful dress. It fits her immaculately. The gloves, everything. It's like a cartoon is sort of trying to like cover all of this dress that she's wearing. It's beautiful. And then you look at the pictures from 1950s of the original. They look so similar. It's really, really well done. She looks ethereal. Next up, we have Celine Song, who's wearing Loewe. I really enjoyed Celine this whole season. I thought it's been really, really fun. And I think that she did a really good job of finishing it off pretty strong. Not too crazy, but also, again, she really hasn't been like going out of the box super, but she's done pretty simple takes on like black skirt suits or black suiting. And I think that this double-breasted black and navy blue skirt suit is the perfect way to finish it off. I think that the black overall double-breasted, really beautiful, but you have one of the lapels in navy blue. She has this beautiful sort of elephant pin button thing, brooch. And I just think it's a cool way to take on, again, a skirt suit. I like the idea of the two layered skirts. I think that the tiers are interesting. And to a certain degree, it almost looks like from afar that Celine might actually be wearing like a pair of capri pants. And then she has sort of like a little flare, a little skirt tie around piece at the waist that maybe is coming up. But then you look up close and you're like, oh, no. She's actually like fully wearing a skirt. So I think there's like an interesting optical illusion, and it might just be that the black sections are sort of intriguingly contrasted by the navy blue. I like the idea of navy blue and black not really ever working sometimes, or at least to some people. I think it works. I think it's very much so what she's been doing. I'm happy with it, into it. Next up, we have Cillian Murphy, who is wearing Versace, from what I know. Here's my thing. I don't know. I wanted a little bit more from Cillian. I just feel like it's a little plain Jane. Listen, I love the boot, love a patent leather boot. Shout out to my king. But I think there's something about tuxedo shirt and maybe just the way that it like folds over with the cummerbund. It looks a little strange. I do like the tie, the black little silk sort of scarf bow tie. I think it's cool. I think the jacket fits really, really well. Again, great example of like certain jackets should fit certain ways. And in that regard, I'm into it. I think maybe it's just the shirt that I don't love so much. And maybe I wanted a little bit more pizzazz. But also like if he wins the Oscar, I get it. He wants to look kind of, dapper guy. And in certain ways, there's little pizzazzes, the bow tie is there, the boots. So like, I'm seeing it, but a little disappointed in my Cillian. I feel like we're now in an era where men can't rest on their laurels anymore. You know what I mean? You gotta step it up. Now, let's talk about Colman, Domingo, and Louis Vuitton. Listen, jacket, love. beautiful, stunning, double-breasted, absolutely gorgeous. I love almost floral-like crystal buttons. I think they're lovely. I think they're a really nice sort of pop, especially when the rest of the suit is pretty normal in terms of suiting. It's not really doing crazy silhouettes. I mean, there's like a slight flare in those pants, and we'll talk about them in a minute, but it's trying to sort of pop without it detracting too much from being a black, clean suit. I do like the bow tie, and I like the big piece of jewelry in the midst of the bow tie. I also like the jewelry in general. I just think that Colman, he has it. He knows how to style things. I love the boots. Really love the boots. Ferrella's pushing that Western vibe 100%. I like the sort of gold plate toe. I like the embroidery in the boot as well. I think it adds a nice sort of distinguishment. I think maybe my issue is the pant. It's just a little weird to me. They're meant to flare, but there were certain points where he was like walking and I could see them, and it almost again looked like at the thigh the fabric was kind of like bunching, and it felt strange to me. I need the fit of the pants and sometimes the blazers to be figured out. Cynthia Erivo in Louis Vuitton is major. It's a moment. I think there was a lot of real good going on this Oscars. So Cynthia is wearing this full leather dress. Again, like, I just want to reiterate, this is a full leather dress, and it's very rare that you see a full leather dress that actually kind of looks good, that fits well. Normally it's also in black. That's the other thing, is because black is the absence of color. A lot of time the light is lost in it, and that sort of helps to smooth out imperfections. But this being in green is kind of crazy because, again, it shows a lot more light in it, and so where there are quote-unquote imperfections, you're going to see them. But the fit of this dress is fantastic. I love it. I think that each of the seams really work to sort of build in the panels of the leather and to sort of help actually accentuate the body. I like the deep plunge. I like the length of it. I think it's absolutely perfect. I feel like it has a nice sort of flow to it. I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, I don't get it. That's fine. You don't have to get it. But like, I like the fact that Louis Vuitton by Nicolas Ghesquière, which is the women's side of LV, has really started to understand the idea of trimming a little bit of excess from Nicola's very expansive and very sort of put on world building that he does when it comes to his shows and his advertising campaigns and things like that. But with the red carpet, they've really started to silo some of these elements to make them the focal feature of a look rather than trying to put a bunch of things together. And it really works because here, when she turns around, she's like, I'm calling it the haute couture stegosaur. She looks like a dinosaur who has the beautiful ridgebacks that were created by, again, some small French woman in Fifth Floor Walk-Up in Paris. Like, it is beautiful. You don't have to like it. You don't have to get it. That's totally fine. I don't really mind if you're not understanding, because like, that's a you problem. It's not a me problem. But I love the gathering. I love the ruching. I think it adds this beautiful texture to the leather. And at the same time, she's not overpowered by it. Even if you don't like it, you can't look at it and really say, wow, it's taking over. It's eating her up. It's too big. It's too much. No. They've really done a good job of letting this jacket only really be the focal feature in the back. So when she turns around, that's all you're looking at. But from the front, it's a beautifully fitted column gown with a sort of big shoulder sleeve ruffle kerfuffle thing. It's a really smartly done piece, and yet it's fashion forward. It fits her beautifully. It's in a gorgeous material that isn't always done very, very well. Probably one of the best Oscars looks of the decade. I'm putting it in there. She gets it. Next up, we have Da'Vine Joy Randolph, who is also wearing Louis Vuitton. I don't mind it. I don't love it. It's not my favorite Da'Vine look that I think we've seen. I think that for LV in particular, they don't normally dress women of Da'Vine's size. It's just not, I would say, in the normal stratosphere of what they do. And I've really enjoyed a lot of these fashion brands that have been dressing Da'Vine throughout the award season. It's pretty much an applique sort of column gown. I think it fits her nicely. It has a halter neck. I don't really mind the halter neck. I don't love the dress, to be honest. It's kind of simple. What I do think is maybe a little bit more interesting is these shredded pieces of chiffon that create these big arm loofah things in a similar blue. It's almost the same shade of blue. And then from the back, we can also see that a train flies out. I do think that, again, there are certain elements of it that are fighting each other. I think that the arm ruffle scraps are fighting the fact that you're also having like a metallic column dress, and then the chiffon in the back is trying to be like pretty. And so I think there's a little too much going on. We're not letting one piece be the focal feature. And I do also wish that maybe the dress was a little different. There's something about it that I'm not like totally obsessed with. It's not my favorite look. Next up, we have Danielle Brooks, who is wearing Dolce & Gabbana. I like this. I think it's nice. I think it works. It's a little simple, to be completely honest. But again, I think that the fit is good. I don't really mind the whole idea. So we'll start at the top. I like the sort of semi-curved neckline. I like the fact that also you have this black corset in a silk, which is a little bit of a reflective silk. What I do really like, though, is the fact that instead of just letting the boning be exposed, or the seams of the boning be the most important sort of feature and the thing that's creating a contour, I like the idea of crystallizing it. I don't know if I've ever seen that. Maybe I have, but I can't really remember recent times that I've seen it. I like the idea. I don't really mind it. I think it's a nice little detail. I think it works. I also think like covering up the seams in certain regards can work unless you're kind of like a master of construction. I wouldn't say Dolce & Gabbana is like the masters of construction by any means. Do I think that the silk cummerbund that branches out into a train is great? Not really. I think the cummerbund part is fine. Like the sash cummerbund thing. I think the train, I'm not really understanding. And like, I think it's also the fact that the rest of the skirt is in a matte black that I don't really get per se. But I don't think, again, that it fits poorly. I don't think it fits badly. I don't really hate it. It's just kind of there. Overall, I think it's fine. I feel like I've seen more exciting things. But again, I'm still thinking about Danielle Brooks in a recent Christian Siriano event. So like this I will take and I'll be fine with. Next up, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, wearing Dolce & Gabbana. Just because people say, we will dress you, does not mean you say yes. This silk monstrosity, it's awful. I don't know why he let them do this to him. His stylist should have said, no. I would rather you wear something off of a rack at H&M than that. Wear a black suit. Don't be too experimental. You know, as much as I love an experiment, sometimes they go horribly wrong. Like Frankenstein's monster. Horribly wrong. I don't understand why they thought that that fabric would work as like a tailoring fabric. And then not only did the pant, not only did the blazer, but then like the shirt, it's just all crinkle wrinkle mess. It's awful. I don't get it. I really don't understand. And then I don't know what's going on with like the maroon thing and the fact that the shirt is like a different shade than the suit, the shoe. Dwayne The Rock Johnson, what are you doing? No. Bad. Terrible. Next up, we have Emily Blunt. She's wearing Schiaparelli haute couture that like just came off of the runway. And I don't know why. Because this is like not the dress. Listen, you know me. I like kooky. I like crazy. I like over the top. The underwear dress from the Schiaparelli collection is like not really what I was thinking when I say those things. I do like overall the gold. I like the embellishment. I like the sequins. I think that's really beautiful. I think it's really lovely. If you take out the underwear section, it would have been fine. It would have been like a nice, beautiful dress. The straps of the dress are raised because something Daniel Roseberry has been doing for quite some time. He was doing it during the pandemic with Schiaparelli. It's this idea of surrealism and almost the strap sort of being raised as a way to sort of like play on this artistic moment and movement of surrealism, which Elsa Schiaparelli was a part of, where essentially you let the kind of mind wander and it does its own thing and it's lucid and it flows and it's kind of crazy and your eyeballs turn into ravens and your ravens turn into the clouds and skies and whatever, then it rains into like puddles of toenails. It's weird. I like the idea of the raised straps. I think that's fun. But I think the thing that's really weird, and like it was like a fun little gimmicky kind of thing on the runway of like creating briefs or like an underwear motif, trompe l'oeil, on a dress. Glenn Martin's a Diesel did it much better. But I don't really get why they were like, yes, Emily, this is the dress to wear on the Oscars. I like crazy, I like over the top, I like big, I like bold. I feel like this is more of like a Vanity Fair after party dress. I just think it's a little too hokey, gimmicky, viral thing and leaves like a weird taste in my mouth. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. I don't think it's funny. It's kind of bad. The dress by itself, without the brief thing, would have been great. I think it would have been really lovely. I think it would have been a really, really nice take on Schiaparelli. And I think there would have been that element of illusion and surrealism, and it would have been fun. And then it would have just been also a beautiful dress, gorgeous, stunning dress. But the underwear, no, we're good. Thank you, but no thank you. I also will say, if I was going to pick a dress, which this is not my job, so everybody that's like, why don't you give suggestions? It's not my job. I'm not a stylist, okay? I've never claimed to be. It's not what I do, okay? I talk shit for a living. That's it. I thought, and I still think, that a better dress for Emily Blunt would have been the sort of like feather paillette looking dress, because the shoulders were very 40s and very Oppenheimer-esque in terms of the decade, and beautiful women of the 30s and the 40s that had these really sort of sharp, big shoulders, because it was sort of imitating and trying to sort of have that same presence of tailoring to a degree at the same time. And I thought that would have been better. Like, leave the face mask thing out. I think that would have been a better dress because it would have played a little bit more to like the method dressing element. And yet still would have been interesting, still would have been cool, still would have been very memorable. I do understand that like maybe that dress you couldn't have picked because it's so couture, and the client might have bought it and said, no, 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 I don't want anybody else wearing it. So I get that. But at the same time, that's what I would have wanted. All right, next up, Emma Stone, Louis Vuitton. I like it. I don't know. I feel like I've joined the cult of Nicolas Ghesquière. I think that he gets it. I think that that team is really understanding the fact that, again, silo and idea, and it works. I haven't finished Poor Things. I didn't watch it all the way through, so like, I do apologize. But I do think that this minty jacquard was really, really smart, because if you watch the beginning of the movie, you will actually see that in those sort of beginning credits, there is this minty jacquard. I think it's more of like a matelassé, because I don't think you can actually like jacquard something that similar, because I feel like the motif would have to keep going. But there's this idea of like sewing and creating these sort of pictures in silk fabrics in that color. And that's kind of what I thought maybe this reference is to a degree. And I also know that in the movie, I can't find the pictures of it, but there are panels on the walls that have that sort of matelassé on it. And so that's what I thought they were going for. And I kind of love that. I think it's a really niche little reference point to the movie. If you've seen the movie, I loved it. I also think it was smart that they didn't go full leg of mutton sleeve thing. We had that once. Didn't really work out. Everybody's sad about it, myself included, but we survived. I do really like this big peplum, because what I really like about it is how stiff it is. Like when she was moving, I could see how stiff she was, like almost playing with it a little bit. And it was really stiff. It's really kind of hard looking. And normally you'd feel like a peplum kind of is floaty and bouncy, and it doesn't look like that. The way that they've done it to have that curvature in it and to hold that sort of shape is really intriguing. Do I think maybe the skirt underneath could have been fitted a little bit better? Sure, I do. But at the same time, I do really like the peplum. I do really like the reference. I do really like the callback. I think it is smart. I also think the color itself is perfect. I think it beautifully bounced off of her eyeballs. It was good. It was solid. I was very happy with this. I really enjoyed it, and I liked the fact that if you watch the movie, you got a little something, something. Next up, we have Erika Alexander. She is wearing Christian Siriano. I needed to put this in here because, like, you know, there were a lot of people when I did my recent Christian Siriano show review that were like, what have you ever done? You don't know anything. I want to see your fashion show. That's what you were defending. Just so you know. That right there. Somebody put that on her and said, go, represent my brand. This is my aesthetic. This is my vibe. I'd be embarrassed if it was me. It's not me, and I'm embarrassed. Because that is, excuse my French, but atrocious. That is disgusting. Who would ever do that to somebody? And I don't ever want to hear that that man says that he likes this woman, because evidently he doesn't, because he put her in that. That's awful. Listen, I may be judgy, but you know, I have nothing to show for it. Tragic. Next up, we have Phineas O'Connell. I don't know what it is about making suits in this silk that we're all thinking is a good idea. I don't know who he's wearing. Honestly, I haven't been able to find it. It might be Givenchy, because I feel like he's been wearing a lot of Givenchy recently, but I also don't want to attribute this to anybody in case it's not them. So, I don't know. Stop making suits in this fabric. It's not working. Nobody can make it look good. Also, as soon as they sit down in a car, it's done. It's so creased. It's so awful. It doesn't photograph well. Stop doing it. Everybody, please. For your own sake. There are so many better things that Phineas could have worn. That is not this. Again, I'm not a stylist. It's not my job to figure out what he should have worn. But I know what he shouldn't have worn, and it's this. Next up, we have Florence Pugh, who is wearing Del Corre. Now, Del Corre is a smaller Italian fashion brand. I do really like the top. I do. I love the top. I also like small fashion brands that are from and based in Italy, because it's a very big pond, big fish city. I don't love the skirt, and maybe it's just the way that she's standing right now that is putting a little bit of pressure onto that silk, and so when it photographs it, it looks kind of weird. I do like, again, that Florence picked a young designer to wear. I think it's cool. I feel like everybody else, for the most part, has gone for really, really big brands. She went for a smaller brand. I do really respect that. Love this curvature, sort of like mermaid sheer crystal top thing. I just don't really like the skirt. I appreciate that we tried to, at the waist, sort of add in crystals so that it's kind of similar or whatever. Yeah, I don't love the skirt. Don't love the skirt at all, unfortunately. Next up, we have Greta Lee, who just, again, like, knocked it out of the park. She's wearing Loewe. It's straight off the runway from the most recent collection. I love it. Like, she is stunning. She's gorgeous. She's beautiful. And I think that this dress is a perfect mixture of something that is kind of more or less pretty simple. I mean, it's a black column dress with a little bit of back exposure. The draping of the white that sort of starts up at the neckline and loops into these sort of front pockets is just intriguing. I think it's a different way of doing sort of gathering, draping, flowiness in a dress, but it still has that interesting Jonathan Anderson twang of Loewe to it. And so you're just kind of like, oh, yeah, beautiful, stunned, gorgeous, lovely, effortless. And I feel like Greta also has been focusing on her back a lot recently throughout the season. So it's been fun to also see these sort of little elements here and there sort of jut in. It doesn't have to be run-of-the-mill. It can be strange, a little avant-garde, a little bit twisted and jigged and all those kinds of things. She looks beautiful. Sorry, I don't care. Next up, we have Haley Steinfeld, who is wearing Ellie's Saab. I really like this as well. Honestly, I thought it was kind of interesting. It's a very light blue chiffon that at the neckline and sort of part of the bodice is this gold and gray embellished that then flows into the gathered chiffon. It's floor length. It's really pretty. I like the silhouette of the skirt, actually, because it does sort of hug the hips, it seems, but at the same time, it flows out in an A-line, so it gives you a little bit more oomph in terms of a skirt. I also like the fact that there are sort of these gauntlets that sit on parts of her wrist and parts of her arm that sort of correlate to what's going on the bodice, but it also sort of gives her the ability and connects the chiffon at the back, so it is all one sort of fluid motion of piece, yet she's still able to expose a lot of the chest, a lot of the shoulder, a lot of the arm. It's just a really interesting design. Again, I think it's a cool way of showcasing that you can do really beautiful, really gorgeous, really easy, gathered, flowy dresses, but it doesn't have to feel like you've seen it a million times. It can be a little different. It can be a little out there. It can be just something lovely. So I'm very into this. Stun. Next up, we have Jennifer Lawrence, who is wearing Christian Dior. It's kind of just there. Not really memorable, not really exciting, not really interesting. Here's the thing. I don't, hate it. It doesn't offend my eyeballs. It's a strapless, somewhat a wasp-waisted sort of floor-length gown with black and white polka dots, and the polka dots aren't just your normal, perfectly circular polka dots. And then she has this sort of stole that, asymmetrically wraps around. I don't know why we have to asymmetrically wrap around things, but it's Maria Grazia, so sure. I do really like the gathering at the waist. I can't tell if it's not pulled on correctly, or maybe she's just standing a certain way, but it almost looks like one side is higher than the other, and the dress isn't on straight, it's not on fully facing, so I'm not really sure. But listen, she looks really pretty, but do I care? Will I remember it? No. Do I think the dress fits her beautifully? Absolutely, and I like that and I respect that, and that's great. But I don't know. I want a little more from Jennifer Lawrence. I miss the fun Jennifer. Next up, we have Jodie Foster. She's also wearing Loewe. It's this silk draped style that's partially crystallized. I'm going to be honest. There are elements of it that I really, really like. I like the neckline. I like asymmetrical straps and gathering on one side. But is it enough to make me really like the dress overall? No. I don't like it. I think I'm putting it in the context of Loewe, and it's, again, artistic. It's not different enough that I'm like, oh, okay, I can see what we're doing. I like the idea. I just think there's something about it that doesn't really deliver. I think there are subtle little details that are interesting, but I don't think that they all harmonize super well. I don't think that there's anything that really stands out as a focal point that makes you say, oh my gosh. Listen, crystals on a silk dress, kind of seen it before. It's whatever. It's not really memorable, not really exciting. There are certain things that I could get into, but like how much can I get into them? I'm not really sure. And so yeah, I feel like it's a little bit of a flop here. Really not loving whatsoever, unfortunately. Next up we have Leia Lewis. With the utmost respect to her, no clue who she is, but I really like this dress. It's leather couture. It's this horsehair ribbon dress. So essentially it's all pieces of horsehair ribbon that are sort of layered and draped and swooped and swagged. And that's where you get this sort of ethereal movement. And that's also why the ribbon sort of in a loop at the end, that's what creates that train. It's really cool. I like the idea of somebody taking a piece of fabric that normally would sit underneath things, not really as the focal point of a garment, and making it the focal point of the garment, yet it doesn't feel like it's deconstruction. It doesn't feel like it's so on the nose of, you know, using seams, and rather it's really kind of pretty. I think the pink really works. I think the draping of the ribbon works. I just think it's a really cool way of utilizing this textile that normally doesn't get its shine. I think it's very beautiful and lovely and gorgeous, and I'm happy to see it. Next up we have Lily Gladstone. She's wearing custom Gucci, and she also is wearing jewelry by Joe Big Mountain. That's what we can see here. I really do like the necklace. I think it's beautiful, and I like the fact that Lily has kept utilizing Native American jewelry designers or designers in general to sort of incorporate elements into her wardrobe. I think it's been fun. I'd like to see it. I do really love that necklace. It's gorgeous. And I think they did a really good job of matching the actual color of the dress to what's going on in the necklace. I do kind of like the dress. Listen, from the front, I think it's a little blah. It's a really dark blue velvet, I believe, which fits her miraculously. Unfortunately, I think because of, you know, the color and the shade of it, it really is a blue that, like black, will suck in the light, especially when it's in velvet. So I don't think you really get to appreciate it all that much, but I like the color blue. I love that blue in a velvet. I think it sets itself apart a little bit from black. But I like the fact that at the neckline, you have this sort of piping detail that is fully 100% embroidered. It's encrusted with crystals and little stones or whatever, and the blue is lovely. It's a beautiful color, and I love the little silver X's that run through it, and just that little line to differentiate where the velvet starts with the crystals as well. But on the back of the dress, we can see that there are these sort of little floral pieces. Now, I don't know if they are Gucci originals or if they're by Joe Big Mountain and they've just been added to the Gucci dress, because I know that Joe Big Mountain, the designer of the jewelry, does do pieces that sort of look like this. I have a feeling he might have done those. I kind of like that. I like the fact that Gucci said, you know what, listen, we see where you're going. We can 100% work with that. I think that's cool, and I think that's also what brands need to do in certain circumstances. Somebody's really trying to push this narrative. They're really trying to like uplift and bring in beautiful heritage textiles, techniques, and things like that. Do that. Why not be a part of that? It only benefits you, and also it looks nice. I'm into this. I think it's fun. It's not the craziest Lily Gladstone look I've ever seen, but also I think for her first, I believe, Oscar nomination, especially for as big of a role like Cillian Murphy, I get wanting to go for something like this. I think it works, and I do really think that there's a lot of details and elements to it that are beautiful. Next up, we have Lupita Nyong'o. She is wearing Armani Privé. Gorgeous. I think Lupita, for the most part, always delivers just gorgeousness. I think the color of this dress is lovely. From what I heard, this dress is actually from 2020. It was made by Armani, and Lupita didn't wear it for something, and so she kind of brought it out for this, which I love. Listen, somebody put a lot of time and effort into that haute couture gown. You should wear it at a later date, and I'm happy that you did. The full crystal in this really pale, dusty blue is lovely. I like the feathers that start right below the waist and sort of cover the hip. I think it does a really great job of emphasizing the hip. And it's not just like a straight block around the hip or a straight line. Rather, it sort of floats and then slowly sort of moves down and around the hip. And I think that's really smart. I think that's the thing about Armani that I always really love, is the fact that that brand, they know how to make gorgeous clothes. You know what I mean? The craftsmanship is there. They understand how to accentuate body. I love the bottom of the dress too. The feathers there are really gorgeous. She looks great. Next up, we have Margot Robbie, who is wearing Versace as well, and she is wearing a Oroton dress. It's actually from the recent runway, the fall 2024 show. Form-fitting Oroton dress, strapless, and then having a draping detail that sort of sits across the hip. Really not my favorite look. I know that people have said that more or less they think Margot wasn't nominated as an actress. She's more than likely as a producer of the Barbie film, being a little bit calmer, you know, taking a back step in the same way that like Celine Song as a director, or Greta Gerwig, they're there and they want to look beautiful. I do think the dress looks nice on her. It's a chainmail metallic textile that you're draping like that. She looks gorgeous, but she's also Margot Robbie, so it kind of goes without saying. It's fine, it's whatever. I want more, of course. Even if you are a producer, you're still Margot Robbie, and I want, it's there. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's fine. Hey, next up, Michelle Yeoh. I love Michelle Yeoh, but this Balenciaga dress I hate. Michelle Yeoh is wearing Balenciaga, I believe it's probably haute couture. It is this half light silver, half dark silver sequin gown with train. It's ugly. Can't really do anything about it. I think there are certain moments where sequins work and they're great and they're wonderful, but like this is an ugly dress. Michelle Yeoh is Michelle Yeoh, so like she pulls things off. She always looks beautiful. She always looks stunning, but it's gross. I just think it looks cheap. I think it looks kind of trashy. And like, I know Demna, Balenciaga, all that, like the man literally just sent like backpacks as a dress out on the runway. So like, at the same time, like, I don't think that an haute couture piece like this is meant to not look great on a red carpet. I don't think try to do like subversive fashion on Michelle Yeoh. There's like certain things. You don't do that to a national treasure. You make her look nice. I just don't love it. Listen, she's selling me, or she's trying to sell me on the garment, and like, I'm trying to be there for it, but there's just something about that like weird sort of diagonal curve of where the fabric changes and the color changes. It just doesn't work. I just think the fabric is too much. The shoe also, like, I don't love. The gloves I really don't love. I just think in general it's not a good, even like the neckline, like it's a weird drapey like turd of a neckline. It's just ugh, I don't like it. No, sorry. Next up we have Rita Moreno, icon, legend, love. This big ruffle neckline that flows down the dress. It's beautiful. She looks great. She's carrying it. The big gloves. She looks hot. She looks sexy. I love Rita Moreno. Like, what else are we gonna do? Next up, we have Riz Ahmed, who is wearing Marni. I love this. I think this is a great example of like, you can wear interesting things to the Oscars, men. It's possible. He's doing it. This brown three-piece suit thing is great. It's very Francesca Rizzo for Marni. Like, I like the fact that it's a beautifully fitted coat, I would say. Or a long jacket, I guess. It's frayed at the edges. I'm trying to figure out if they cover the jacket with an extra fabric so that the lapels are sitting underneath the fabric and it almost looks like they're trying to push out. And it's the same thing with the buttons, because the buttons look like they are covered by fabric, and so it gives it this really interesting sort of layered situation that I love. And we can see that on the sleeves there's a fabric panel at the back that's black, so like maybe only the front is covered in this brown fabric, and that's why it looks like all these pieces are covered. I also just like even love the fact that the buttonholes on the other side are just like punctures in the fabric. It's not, you know, a beautifully cut buttonhole with little threads that help to sort of ease the button in. No. It's just literally like they took a screwdriver and said, stab. Great. Move on to the next one. I like the turtleneck. It's weird. It's sculptural. I like the pants. I like the fact that we also like chose a black shoe because it works with the back of the fabric. Like, this is cool. This is fashion. This is also like just beautiful menswear. Looks stunning. I'm into it. Next up we have Ryan Gosling, who is wearing Gucci. He's been doing like very chill, casual looks for the most part, and I don't really mind it. Like, Ryan tries and he has a little something, but he's not doing crazy silhouettes. He's doing fitted men's suits that are casual, and then there's a little either color change or there's a little piping detail, which is what we're seeing here in this black suit. I do really, really like, there are these really nice sort of shawl lapels that sort of come down. They're piped in this little silver sequin situation. And the same thing with the placket of the shirt, the same thing with the collar of the shirt as well. The pant fit, I think, is pretty good. I think it's fine. The man could go out on a limb and, I don't know, wear a boot. Salvatore De Sarno Gucci, I'm sure, makes a beautiful boot. I think the putting the sleeves in the pocket, maybe not the best. It bunches up the sleeves like that. I like the idea. I like it. It feels very modern Gucci in this iteration of it. It doesn't feel boring, but like, I think I'll take that for a leading man. Next up we have Sandra Huller, and she is wearing Schiaparelli. I like this. I think this is fun. I think that it's a fitted black gorgeous velvet gown, the waist nipped. And then I think the interesting thing about Schiaparelli is you can do really simple, beautiful fitted dresses, but one element of the dress will have some sort of crazy proportion or crazy embellishment, and it can work really, really well. I think that the neckline sort of jutting out and being almost like a gigantic bow tie of some sort is really lovely. I think it's beautiful. I think it frames the chest in a gorgeous way. I think it also like kind of frames the arms really, really well too. It also, because it's so big, the proportion is so big, it shrinks you a little bit. So it's always going to make you look smaller. Not that everybody wants to look smaller, but that's the smart thing about certain proportions of certain garments is it can change your perception of the person's body to a degree. I do like the keyhole. It's the Schiaparelli signature. Danielle Roseberry really is pushing it in the silver crystals. I think it works. I think she looks lovely. Nice dress. And it's a great way of showing that you can do simple and there can be one detail that really makes it nice. I like it. And finally, we have Zendaya. Listen, she is wearing Armani Privé. This is haute couture. I'm sure that it maybe, I don't know if it's custom actually. I don't want to say it's custom and it's not. I'm really unsure. But she's wearing this beautiful pink organza reflective gown that's asymmetrical. And there's sort of this like chainmail or sequined or embellished bodice and this sort of palm tree frond explosion that runs throughout the pink silk organza. She looks lovely. Listen, it's not the craziest Zendaya look that I've seen, but like she's also been really carrying everybody on her back recently, so like I'm willing to let her just have like a beautiful, gorgeous, stunning diva moment. And at the same time, it's not like it's just a pink organza dress, or it's not like it just is a white dress with silver sequins. No, there's like a design element to it. There's intrigue, there's layer, there's nuance, there's texture, there's fabric. Like it all works really, really well. She looks beautiful. She really, 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 really looks beautiful in it. It's a gorgeous dress. The color's fantastic. The silver, the bodice. You could put her in a greasy ass pizza box and she would make me say, oh my God, we've been sleeping on greasy pizza boxes as textiles for centuries. What's wrong with us? And with that, let's get into our best and worst because we're done. Best? Cynthia Erivo, Louis Vuitton, 100% in my best. Carey Mulligan, Balenciaga, in my best. America Ferrera, Versace, in my best. Anya Taylor-Joy. Oh, Greta Lee, I will put in my best in Loewe. Leia Lewis, I'll put in my best. I will put Lupita Nyong'o and Armani Privé in my best. I will put... I'm going to throw Haley Steinfeld in there, because I feel like it. Oh, Riz Ahmed in, yeah, Marnie, good, loved, great. And Lily Gladstone, I really liked it. I thought it was nice. I thought it really, really worked well. Now, let's talk about worst. Bradley Cooper, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, that was rough. Erica Alexandra and Christian Siriano, I'm so sorry. It's not her fault, and I feel terrible. Michelle Yeoh and Balenciaga, did not love. Oh, Emily Blunt, I really didn't like it. I wanted to like it, but it hurts my eyeballs. That is the end of this video. I hope you guys all enjoyed. I will see you guys in the next one, and TTY. Oh.